You know, it's been 10 years since the release of Banjo-Kazooie Nuts and Bolts. 2008. A simpler time. Just ignore that recession. You know, this is one of the first games I remember following the development really closely. I didn't even have an Xbox 360, but hey, it was a new Banjo game. You know, fans at the time didn't like it too much, and its reputation hasn't gotten better since. But I decided to give it a chance. I played it right before Ukulele came out. I needed a point of comparison. And yes, this is the box art that my copy of the game came with. I thought it was a good idea to buy used from GameStop. The main issue that everyone has with this game is that they ditched the platforming gameplay in favor of creating vehicles to do challenges. Apparently no one thought a 3D platformer would sell anymore. I guess they missed that little game from around the same time. It was a platformer. What was it called again? Oh, whatever. But in their effort to change up the game, they ended up appealing to no one, and the game bombed. If you were a Banjo fan, there was no appeal to you because it's nothing like the other games. And if you weren't a Banjo fan, there was still no appeal to you because why would you buy some weird vehicle making game starring dumb animals? At least if they had made it a normal platformer, the fans would have been happy. But I'm gonna be a bit contrarian and say the vehicle-based gameplay is actually the best part of the game. It works pretty well. I don't have any complaints about it. You have land, air, and sea challenges and you have to build your own vehicles to complete them. It's pretty creative, and I could imagine a world where this could have been a well-received game. So I'm not going to spend the rest of this video complaining about cars. I think JonTron covered that aspect of the game pretty well already. No, it's everything else about this game I have a problem with. You see, the vehicles could have worked if this wasn't a Banjo-Kazooie game. And barring that, it could have worked if it felt like a Banjo-Kazooie game. This game is a complete mess from a design standpoint. None of its elements gel together in the slightest. Let's start with the story. It just might be the worst story I've ever heard in a game. It starts off well enough. Banjo and Kazooie have gotten fat and washed up in the 8 years since Banjo-Tooie. Grunty finally comes hopping back down the Spiral Mountain to confront them again. Both sides are so pathetic that it's actually hilarious. But then it all goes downhill when we meet the Lord of Games, also known as Log. He's the creator of all video games, and he's intervening between Banjo-Kazooie and Gruntilda to make them compete in all this vehicle shit. The winner gets to own Spiral Mountain or something. Whatever. If your story is basically a fourth wall breaking god coming down and saying, "Listen, bitch, we're doing this now. Fuck you," then I'd say you failed as a writer. This is Family Guy cutaway level of laziness. I'm sure there's gotta be a better way to introduce the vehicles than this. But the first Banjo game was a damsel in distress story. That's a bad plot too. Well, at least there was a conflict there. There's no conflict in this story because it's been artificially set up. Banjo didn't really want Spiral Mountain. Grunny didn't really want Spiral Mountain. It's Log that suggested it. Neither the protagonist or the antagonist have any stake in the story. You can even stand next to Grunny and she won't even do anything. It's so lame. She doesn't even host the final quiz. It's the Lord of Games. I mean, what the hell? Jesus Christ, Grunny, get a smartphone already. They messed up the worlds too. They're all fake places created by Log for you to do challenges in. I guess the thought was to make the levels look hastily constructed, kinda like your vehicles are. I give them points for aesthetic consistency, but it just ruins the levels for me. They're just not interesting to explore. I feel absolutely no attachment to these places, because they're just dull. You don't even meet any new characters in these levels. You just meet the same couple over and over again. The idea is that they're actors playing roles that are themed after the worlds they're in, like Mumbo's a farmer in the level called Nutty Acres. But I loved meeting new characters when I got to new levels. It made the world feel alive. Although I guess these worlds are literally not alive by design. So what we got is an artificial plot with artificial levels that have artificial characters. This might just be the most unimmersive and uninteresting game I've ever played. It doesn't help that this game has absolutely no fourth wall either. Once again, one of the primary characters is basically a game developer's self-insert. And one of the levels, Banjo Land, is just a giant museum for the first two Banjo games. That's a bit on the nose, I think. Speaking of which, this game is a bizarre mix of fan service and disregard for everything the old games did at the same time. It's like going on a date who punches you and then kisses you right afterwards. So you'll get Banjo Land and then you have to deal with the fact this game hates everything that made Kazooie and Tooie so beloved. It's like they knew Banjo didn't fit in this game at all, so they tried their best to please unhappy fans, but it just feels uneven and bizarre. It's like Banjo and Kazooie were thrown into a completely unrelated game. You wanna know why Mario can have a million spin-offs with different gameplay in each one and they're still good? Because they all still seem like they take place in Mario's world. Here Banjo and all the other characters stick out so much I wonder why they didn't just make this a new IP. Let's look at Mumbo again. Mumbo's role in the game is being a mechanic who owns the shop that you build your stuff in. Except he's supposed to be a shaman. Does this look like a mechanic to you? It's almost as if he wasn't designed for this game. I guess they did try to redesign everyone to make them fit better. The results are a bit of a mixed bag though. Some of them look pretty good. Bottles is basically perfect. I like Humbo's redesign, but there's something off about Mumbo though. I think it's something with his eyes. And for the title characters, I think Kazooie looks great, but Banjo looks hideous. I mean, just look at him. Will anyone remember Nuts and Bolts in a decade? Come back in 2018 to find out. It really has been 10 years, hasn't it? My sense of time is all screwed up. You know, a decade ago I was still playing Banjo-Kazooie and making bad YouTube videos. I guess nothing's changed. So what's good about this game? Well, Klungo went into game development and made a masterpiece for you to play. Hero Klungo saves the world. It plays like one of those bad Game Maker platformers I used to make. This might just be the best part of the game. I'm not saying buy Nuts and Bolts just for Hero Klungo. Well, no, I am saying that. It's just... whoo mama, fantastic. The music is also great. I just have one minor complaint that I'm sure absolutely no one is going to agree with. A lot of times some of the old Banjo music is remixed into the new songs, when it makes absolutely no sense for them to do that. I know why they did this. They wanted to play the old themes with an orchestra. I get it. But leitmotifs don't work that way. I'd like to talk more about this game, but considering it has no real plot, levels, or characters, it's kinda hard. There's just no real substance to this game. The most interesting place is the game's hub world, Showdown Town, because it's an actual location, and it's set up so you still need your vehicle to navigate it. This should have been a template for every other level. This game could have worked, but everything besides the core gameplay is just designed so poorly. It's just hard to get invested in this. Well, that's Nuts and Bolts, I guess. Despite its flaws, it's still the last Banjo game we have. It was nice to play as the Bear and Bird again. And despite me thinking it's really poorly designed, I don't think it's a bad game. Or at least not one that's so worthy of people's hate. It's been 10 years. I think we should give it a chance.